I'm David Schuster, live at the Politics desk in Washington. In its earliest days, President Obama's cabinet was sometimes described as a dream team, but it's also provided a few headaches, specifically when members appear to contradict official positions. For example, Attorney General Eric Holder said the president would seek an assault weapons ban, something that the House Speaker then shot down. Press Secretary Robert Gibbs also rejected a suggestion the U.S. would consider a mileage tax, one that came from the president's own transportation secretary. Eamon Javers is a correspondent with Politico. And Eamon, are these just isolated incidents, or is this sort of a problem with message or a lack of communication? What's going on here?
Well, David, I talked to folks over at the White House about this, and they're saying that they've got, every confidence in their cabinet at this point. And I think what's going on here is really just sort of a shakedown cruise for the new cabinet. You've got a lot of people who aren't used to working together, and a lot of people who haven't quite been at the high levels of scrutiny that some of these cabinet secretaries and other high officials find themselves. Eric Holder, until recently, was a corporate lawyer who had been in justice before, but wasn't under the kind of political scrutiny that he is now. Ray LaHood was a congressman, and I remember when he was on Capitol Hill, you could hang out with Ray LaHood and talk to him as a reporter all day long, and nobody paid all that much attention to what he had to say compared to the kind of attention he's getting now. So some of these officials are adjusting to their new roles, shall we say.
Another example was that the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, got some heat from Jewish leaders for suggesting Israel is dragging its feet on helping Gaza. There's also, of course, tax issues.
Right.
U.S. Trade Rep Ron Kirk owes nearly $10,000 in back taxes. Are any of these sort of problematic in the long term, or just sort of bumps in the road?
Well, at this point, you're looking at bumps in the road. The trick for the Obama administration, though, is when you have people who've got an independent power base, like a Hillary Clinton or a Joe Biden, for example, who go off message. It's a little bit harder to rein in those independently powerful people than it is a Ray LaHood, who's sort of dependent on the Obama people at this point for his career. Some of these folks don't need Obama in the long term, and they'll have careers independent of him going forward. So there is sort of a boss-employee relationship with some of these folks in the cabinet. With others, it's more of a colleague relationship, and that's a little bit trickier to manage for the White House. And one of the things that I would be really curious to see, and the White House isn't telling us at this point, is what kind of message goes out from the White House to these members of the cabinet, members of the Obama team, when there is one of these missteps. I would bet that it's significantly different when it's a relatively low-ranking person than when it's a Hillary Clinton type.
Eamon, as you've reported before, the White House was so disciplined under President Bush in terms of the message, and that there was a sort of set of talking points that went out to all the agencies every day. All of the Republican strategists who were going to be appearing on cable talk shows would essentially have the same set of talking points. Has this White House under President Obama, have they followed the same sort of path, and if not, why not?
But we haven't seen the same kind of discipline out of the Obama White House at this point. And it's particularly interesting to note, given that they were so famous on the campaign trail for their discipline. This was the team that was called No Drama Obama. And we have seen some drama in the White House over the past couple of weeks compared to what we saw on that flawless presidential campaign that they ran last year. So it's an interesting adjustment that everybody on their team seems to be making here as they adapt to their new roles in the White House. And one of the things that they've had trouble with is just email from the White House press office. This is a team that was famous for its reinvention of the use of the internet in campaigns, and they've struggled with something as basic as the email in the White House. So they're trying to get their arms around the levers of power in Washington and in that White House, and it's not an easy transition for folks to adapt to these new roles. And there's almost always at the beginning of any new administration there are some bugs to be worked out of the system here, and that's what we're seeing here.
Certainly a lot of growing pains. You're very correct. Eamon Javers from Politico. Eamon, always great having you on. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Hey, thanks, David.